Hello. Welcome back to the Jared Cast. A spooky episode of the Jared Cast
Woo.
because it's October, so now we do some spooky shit for the most part. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if this continues next week. But for now, we're doing it. It's good to be back once again. I am Jared. If you forgot I exist, I'm one half of the Jared Cast, but. More importantly, is the funnier, more insightful, better looking Jared. Jared Onconon, how you doing?
I think all of those are debatable, but I'm doing good. Yeah, man, I'm excited to talk about these movies. Both of them kind of exceeded my expectations, and um, you are Frozen.
Oh, am I back? Oh, I'm fine on my screen.
You're back. You're back. Okay, cool.
Okay, I was never unfrozen on mine, or I was never frozen on mine. But yeah, you were saying exceeded expectations.
They both exceeded my expectations. I'm excited for the top five as well because I kind of went out there for it. And yeah, I'm actually coming to you from a new location. I'm no longer in
Yeah,
Ventura County. I'm now in LA County, uh, LA adjacent, Anaheim adjacent, OC adjacent, La Mirada,
yeah. I'm
which is
sure people
exciting.
could tell by the blank walls changing a little bit. Tell exactly where you were.
This is the same curtain from from my first bedroom too.
Yeah.
So it's the
Honestly, if I didn't know you moved, I would have just assumed it was your old place.
100%. It's even the same sign. Like it's just
Yeah.
the only difference is the vent.
Mhm.
But yeah, like I'm sitting on my lawn chair now, like because I don't have a, I don't, oh sorry,
Nice.
I didn't bring a wheel chair. I'm still looking for a good office chair that's a decent price.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I did too, and now it's fucked up. It's like it's bad. It's gonna collapse during an episode one of these days.
damn. Yeah,
Yeah.
furniture.
Furniture. We're not here to talk about furniture, despite what you may think. We're here to talk about some horror and like horror adjacent, horror involved movies. Two new releases, Smile and Mona Lisa and the Blood Moon. I'm very excited. Like you, I at least one of these exceeded my expectations, and I didn't really know what to think before going into the other. But was pleasantly surprised and into it. But before we dive on in to Smile, we've got a little top five. Surprise, surprise.
We do. So both movies feature some sort of possession of various
Mm,
types. Um, and so we're doing our top five possession scenes. I tried to stick to
okay.
movies this time. I know the last couple lists I did not do a good job of that, but
My
um,
last one, I had like, I think my number one was a TV for my last one. So,
yeah, yeah, man. I don't know, but yeah, I tried to mix it up and do a different type of possession every single item. So we'll see
oh,
how it goes. Um,
Auntie
but
Daw.
but but yeah, we'll see. Do you want to go first? Or do you want me to go first?
Yeah, I can. This was a tough one for me, even though I kind of threw the idea out there. I busted out like three of them, and then fourth came pretty easy, and then my number five, it took me a while, and I don't know why it took me a while because I absolutely love this scene. I love this movie. I think we've talked about it. I'm pretty sure we reviewed it, and that's the Evil Dead 2, the hand possession scene. We did that in our camp episode, right? Am I remembering that? It
Yes.
feels like years ago. Yeah, the scene where Ash's hand is possessed against him. I just love it. I think it's funny. I think it's I don't know. It's some of the best effects in the movie. And it's a classic. I just absolutely love this scene.
Yeah, it's great. Give me back my hand.
Yeah. And then the setup for the chainsaw and the shock, everything that happens afterwards is just great.
It's
It's a real
amazing.
turning point in the franchise.
It really is. It really is. I love Ash Williams, and it's a lot of it is because of that scene. Um, my number five is one that we'll be talking about more, so I won't talk about it now. But it's the opening scene of Smile. I really love this
Oh,
opening. Yeah, this is an excellent first victim of any horror movie I think ever, and I think it's really tragic. I love the actress who plays the victim, and I love the actress who plays the witness in the scene. And yeah, I'll talk more about it later.
yeah.
Number five.
I can vouch. It's a great scene. And you know, if you're probably if you're listening to this, it's the more popular of the two movies. So most people are coming in for Smile. And if you haven't seen it, we're going to spoil the shit out of it later. So watch it, and then you'll probably agree. Um, my number four is one that my dear beloved co-host introduced to me.
Ooh.
We watched it for our horror bracket last year, I believe, was the reason for watching this, and it's got a very apt title. It's Possession. It's the tunnel scene. I This is my favorite scene in the movie, and it quickly rose the ranks for some of my favorite scene in a horror movie. Period. Full stop. The build up to it is long, but worth it, and the catharsis of just the freak out is insane. And one of the best milk splatters I've ever seen in a in a movie. So the tunnel scene in Possession is my number four.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. I absolutely agree. Um, can you hear this?
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck it is, but I get tinges of it. It's not a lot though. For those of you who are listening and not watching, Jared just left the room and stabbed his roommate for watching TV too loud.
Yeah. Um, no, no, no. My number four is from the film The Conjuring, another film that was in our bracket. It is the
Mm.
scene in which Bathsheba takes Carolyn. I guess spoiler alert for The Conjuring. Sorry, but it's gross. It's terrifying. It's one of those scenes where it's a really dragged out scare, and the music's really like intense, and the moment is very intense, and
Hmm.
so while it's happening, it's also very gross. Like Bathsheba literally throws up its malice into Carolyn's mouth, and it's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. It is my item for demonic possession on the list. I think it's probably my favorite demonic possession scene that I've seen. And yeah, number four, Bathsheba takes Carolyn the Conjuring.
Hell yeah. It was one of my contenders for that number five spot I was struggling with, and it was in there for a little bit, and then I had to delete it for my boy Ash. But a fantastic scene. I absolutely love it, and I love that movie. It's one of my favorite like blockbuster horrors. I absolutely adore it, and I think it went pretty far in our bracket. Maybe I
It
don't know.
did.
The bracket was weird. Shaun of the Dead, but fucking ran the damn table.
It's,
Um,
it's the third best horror movie of all time.
it is. It's a fact. My number three was also in the bracket because it was a bracket of a lot of horror movies we love. So it kind of makes sense that a lot would be involved. and that is Annie's possession in Hereditary.
Very cool.
Probably one of the reasons me and so many other people wanted at least a Best Actress nom for this movie, if not a win. Um, she fucking loses it, and it's horrifying. The shot, spoiler, which I guess I already kind of spoiled by saying she's possessed at some point. The shot of her banging her head on the attic door is burned into my brain and always will be. There's a lot of great possession. I could have done Peter's possession in this. I could have done uh, several other times. People get possessed in this movie, but I think the climax of the film when Annie gets possessed and just loses it deserves the spot. I think it's fantastic.
Absolutely. This was a contender that narrowly missed my list as well. I could have been, yeah, I was thinking about both Spencer and her. Um,
Mhm.
and yeah, absolutely beautiful. My number three is not from a horror movie. It's from a Disney comedy that came out in 2003. It was the Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan remake of Freaky Friday. Um, Technically, this whole movie is a possession scene. Um,
Yeah,
but I
technically.
but I chose specific. So for those of you, I guess, who have never seen Freaky Friday, a mother and a daughter who fight a lot switch bodies suddenly in the middle of the night, and they wake up as each other, and they're like, "What the hell is going on?" And they just have to live life and try to fill in each other's shoes, and they both come to a better understanding of each other. It was my introduction as a child to Jamie Lee Curtis. That's the
Same.
first thing. Yeah, it's great. And then it's my second favorite Lindsay Lohan performance. And yeah, it's a really good movie, really good comedy. And I specifically chose the makeover montage because it's got this really wonderful, like, there's this pop punk band named Lilix, and they're doing a girl power cover of what I like about you.
Hmm.
It's very 2000s, very tacky, and I love it. And yeah, it's basically Lindsay Lohan's character giving her mother a makeover. And what I love about this scene is that it's not just mischief. Like, it's not just like shenanigans, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna max out all her credit cards and stuff. It actually, like, subconsciously is an expression of love because she wants her mother to dress like a cool person, but her age. Like, she doesn't dress like a teenager. She dresses like someone who's like actually a really like fashionable 40 something year old. And so I really appreciate that about the scene. I appreciate the genuineness of it, the ridiculousness of it, the when she gets her cartilage pierced. Like, to this day, that's the reason why I've never gotten my cartilage pierced, because she screams. Um, yeah, love that scene in Freaky Friday.
Yeah, an underrated movie, honestly. I'm due for just a fun movie night to rewatch it. That cover of What I Like About You for like 4 summers after that movie came out was just everywhere in the Lombardo house. That shit you could not escape. So
So
thanks
good.
for bringing those memories back. Um, my number two,
You are
yeah, my number
correct.
two is also a comedy, but still within the horror realm. Not as much of a detour as Freaky Friday, and as Beetlejuice, the dinner the dinner dance scene.
So good.
It's just too good. The soundtrack is at its peak with Deo by Henry Belafonte, and just the shenanigans are in full swing. I absolutely love it. I think it's hilarious. It's so like tacky and stupid in the best way, as Beetlejuice only knows how. And so it's my number two. I love this scene and I love this movie.
I love that movie as well, man. Yeah, it narrowly missed my list. I was like, Jared's probably gonna have this, so I was
Yeah.
like, I can leave it off in favor of Smile.
Hmm.
My number two is a So I had the the weird possession, or I guess the idea. I don't know what to call Smile. I had the weird, the kind of whatever possession. I had the
Hmm.
demonic possession. I had the comedic possession, and now I have a superhero possession. Um,
Ooh.
it's from the film Venom, starring Tom Hardy and Tom Hardy. Specifically, the scene where Venom makes him eat raw seafood out of a lobster tank and try to cool himself off inside the lobster tank to if you're just watching this scene out of context, it's just Tom Hardy doing the craziest things that you could possibly, and like being really sweaty, and like he's like trying to tell his girlfriend, who's like his ex-girlfriend, who's with her current boyfriend, and the current boyfriend is like genuinely concerned for him. He's not even mad. He's because
Hmm.
it's just the craziest thing. It's just yeah, it's that scene that a lot of people talked about because it's very memeable, but it's also the scene where everybody realized that, oh, Tom Hardy knows exactly what kind of movies he's in, and he's just swinging for the fences, and it's a home run for me. It's a home run for me. Venom in the restaurant, Venom slash Eddie Brock in the restaurant, is absolutely insane, and I love it.
Hmm. Yeah. I've yet to see it. I'm not in tune on the Venom franchise. So I'm gonna have to take your word for it. I've never even heard of that scene before now. And I kind of want to watch it out of context.
It's pretty amazing.
I'll have to do that after we hit end. Um, and if you thought that my last pick was predictable, then you should see this one coming as well. It's a movie that I adore. It's a movie I've hyped up many a time on this podcast. And it's the whole. Honestly, you could pick and choose any scene from this, and it would probably still be my number one. But I did the first possession of oh, why am I blanking on her damn name?
Is it Reagan?
It is Reagan, yeah, in The Exorcist. Why? How did I forget Reagan's name? Yeah, it's her. I'm a predictable man, and I just proved it. Yeah, I mean, this movie holds up like fucking in nothing, dude. I'll still go back to it, and it still looks horrifying, and this scene especially. It's not like the most grotesque one, apart from the "Would you fuck me?" the part where she shoves a crucifix in her but it's still horrifying. The body flailing is insane. The vocal effects are batshit crazy. And it's intense as a motherfucker. I think it's peak horror at its finest in every possession scene in this movie. I think it's one of the best child acting performances ever. And this seems my number one possession scene of all time.
Hell yes. Yeah, Exorcist is it's everything everyone says it is.
Hmm.
It is that movie. That movie is that guy. Uh, yeah, I absolutely love The Exorcist. Love William Friedkin. Love Linda Blair.
Hmm.
And yeah, my number one is the subway tunnel scene in Possession.
Hey. I knew
no,
I shouldn't have put it.
no,
I had a
it's
feeling you were gonna have it.
it's all good. It's all good because the more love that people have for this movie, the more happy I am. Not a lot of people have seen it, even to this day, and so I'm hoping that with the release of with the upcoming release of the 4K remaster, that more and more people will get a chance to see it. But yeah, on Andrzej Zawalski's Possession. It came out in 1981, and yeah, Isabel Adjani gave one of the best performances ever in any horror movie, and not just any horror movie, in any film of all time. And this scene is grotesque, it's wild, it's manic, and it's absolutely terrifying. Just watching a woman on a wide lens go absolutely batshit insane, and what happens to her by the end of the scene is so just gut wrenching and heart wrenching. Um,
Mhm.
it's everything that I want out of horror. It's everything that I want out of cinema. It kind of takes me to this place beyond like real and dreamlike. It's just kind of like just ignites my senses in a really crazy way. So yeah, I think about this scene probably once a week. It's 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 insane. It's insane.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. And I think it's deserving of a number one spot because it is that good. Watch the whole movie. It's definitely worth it. If not, you can watch this too. But I think the build up and just everything that comes out to this insane release of just every conceivable emotion it feels like
Yeah.
is just insane. I think it lives up to the hype. Obviously, it's the only one that made both of our lists, so it must be doing something right.
Right. For sure. And another movie that did something right was Smile. Uh,
Hmm. Yeah, the
what are you doing?
I cut you off, so I was waiting for you to finish.
I thought
And
you.
then I
That's
just
what,
wanted to see if we both would sit in
I
silence.
thought you were. I thought you were cueing yourself.
I was, but then I didn't want to. I don't want to step
Okay.
on your toes, man.
Okay. Well, yeah. Good. Smile came
Okay.
out September 7th. And yeah.
Yeah. But before we get into it,
Stupid. The poor
we
people who
got
have never seen this
a we
show
got a
before.
bad review. Seamless. It's just a seamless operation we got here. Yeah. As Jared reads probably written reviews of movies that we're watching. It's funny. It makes him laugh and stuff. This
Woo!
one comes from. I got two for this, and I don't know. I don't know which one. Pick a number, one or two. I'll let you decide.
Uh, Two.
The longer one. This one's from Energy Zizo, who gave it a 1 out of 10, calling it a cheap Stranger Things knockoff with no plot or originality. Um,
What?
yeah, I don't know. I wish he explained. A horror movie is genuinely bad when the people in the cinema could not stop laughing. The movie had effectively rehashed a number of cliches and concepts from other shows and movies and amalgamated them with a plotless sequence of events. The movie fails to deliver a genuine storyline as backstory was scattered and fragmented across a series of random flashbacks, which the writers presumed would create some form of story sequence, but it failed that ultimately. The movie basically consists of 60% slow scenes with weird music, 20% close up scenes of hallucinations, 10% random memory flashbacks, and 10% cheap jump scares that mimic what has already been seen in previous movies. Without going into spoilers, this movie has taken horror elements from the plot of Stranger Things and rehashed them into a cheap, inferior knockoff. Smile, 2022, is one of those movies where people leave the cinema pulling their hair out, wishing they had stayed home and watched Netflix. 0 out of 10, no originality, very irritating sequence of events, painfully slow, no plotline, terrible ending, and just outright hilarious.
Yeah, I've seen every episode of Stranger Things multiple times, and I don't know what they're talking about.
Literally no clue. The rest of the review is like fine. It's well written. It doesn't really fit the title of the theme. I just don't know the connection to Stranger Things at all.
What the hell, man?
Yeah. If anything, the other movie we're reviewing has more to do with
I
Stranger
know.
Things. It's like adjacent.
I was like, is he reading the wrong thing? Nope, nope. They're just
Nope.
that wrong.
No. Yeah. Anyways, Smile is the, I think, feature debut of Parker Finn.
It
Maybe you
is
could correct me. It is, okay. The feature debut of Parker Finn, and it follows Dr. Rose Cotter after she has a horrifically traumatic incident with her patient at her emergency mental hospital. I mean, it's not like it's a everything hospital, but the emergency mental ward of the hospital.
correct.
And it triggers trauma from previous events in her life and traumatic events moving forward as a curse is kind of placed on her. You've probably seen the trailer for this movie because it's everywhere. The marketing for this thing was insane. They must have pumped
Yeah,
so much money, which made me not excited to see it, honestly. I was
yeah.
like, this is just going to be like a schlocky, like cheap movie that's just classic blockbuster, get some butts in the seat on a Friday night, release in October, and get some cash grab type movie. And I was pleasantly surprised. I don't think it's movie of the year or a horror masterpiece or anything, but I think it held its own. I think it was a real enjoyable time. I thought it was a lot of fun. I think it had enough story to keep me engaged and liking the characters. It is definitely jump scare heavy and at times kind of cheap with that, but I think for the most part it earns it through those characters. The cinematography plays a lot with close ups that kind of put you on damn edge. And overall, I thought it was a surprisingly enjoyable time that I've recommended to people and would recommend to you guys. I'll give it a 7.2 out of 10 for Smile. I think it was a lot of fun. I left the theater happy that I saw it, which I did not expect. After the "you are going to die" part in the trailer before every movie this year, I was like, this movie's gonna be trash. It is gonna suck. But it didn't. I was very happy with it.
Yeah, I think the similarities to Truth or Dare kind of was a big
Mm,
turnoff, but thankfully it was very much not similar to Truth or Dare at all. Um, but yeah, so yeah, this movie was actually made for Paramount Plus, and
mm.
it did so well in the test screenings that they decided to market it to theaters, which I think is why the trailer was shoved down our throats so hard. Um,
Yeah, they're like, please make this worth it.
but yeah, like I agree. I think Parker Finn's made a really exciting debut. I think
Mhm.
it's it does kind of pull a lot from The Ring and Ringu, but I think it still manages to talk about trauma in a nuanced way. And so I think also it's buoyed by the performance of Susie Bacon. I remember seeing her in Mayor of Easttown, and I was like, "It's kind of weird. She looks a lot like Kevin Bacon." And then I saw her name in the credits. I was like, "Oh shit, that's Kevin Bacon and Kira Sedgwick's kid. That's cool." And
Mhm.
so it's great to see her get a lead performance here, and I'm very very happy that multiple people saw her and that she absolutely killed it. I think Rob Morgan is always given parts with not a lot of screen time, but the one scene that he was in was awesome. Uh, I think. I love the monster as well. I love the practical VFX, and I think it's one of the best sounding films of the year. There's this beautiful
Hmm.
synthesis between sound design, score, and like jump scare tactics, and I think it really helps kept me on edge at least. Like it really kept me alongside the main character's personal experience. Um, the things that I weren't crazy about were the performances of Jesse T. Usher or Kyle Gallner, who play her boyfriend and her ex-boyfriend.
Hmm.
I don't think it's necessarily all of their fault. It does feel like they're trying their best, but a lot of what they're given is just like questioning the main character, and that's kind of all they
Yeah.
have. They're just kind of a wall for her. But um, there's so much I think missed opportunity there with the characters with what the character has. Even with the small amount of screen time that he has, Gabriel Byrne in Hereditary, dealing with his wife's trauma, I think was there's a way to show that in a deep way without you know giving that character too many scenes or letting them take over the movie.
Hmm.
I think it's so I just wish those characters were more interesting. Um, and yeah, I'll give this movie. mm, I'm leaning like high sevens, low eights, so I'll just say eight. I was like thoroughly upset at the end of it, which I think is what they wanted. And I did not leave the theater with a smile, but while I was watching it, I was enjoying myself and I was very entertained.
Good. Good. I left the end being upset because I didn't really like the ending.
Oh, really?
But
Okay.
we could wait to jump in or jump in now if you're dying for it.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Um, okay, yeah. I think so. Yeah, heavy spoilers from here on out. We're jumping straight to the end of the movie. Um, so I don't know. I think they had a better ending with the house burning and confronting the trauma rather than making it a hallucination and jumping back to have it resolved by passing on further. Mostly because they hit that the curse is just holding on to your trauma and letting it manifest and take over your life instead of confronting it and kind of hitting it head on. And I think that they just undermine a lot of that with that being a hallucination and going back. I think it kind of takes away a lot of the agency the main character worked so hard to try to get. And I think that it just, I don't know, it felt undermining, and that was so overdone in the movie that it was one of the things that kind of locked my score down was the letting the hallucination play out longer than you'd expect, so you're kind of on eggshells whether or not you're in reality. And I think it was good for a lot of the movie, and then that one was just like one too many and kind of diminished the rest of them for me. It also kind of broke the rules that like the hallucination went to other locations instead of staying like within her, or I guess the hospital hallucination did too. So it does progress. So I take that back. I'm not going to criticize that part. But it just felt different from the rest, and it felt a little more schlocky than the rest. And I was just kind of, I don't know. It was more predictable of an ending for it to pass. So I was kind of surprised when it didn't at first, and then it went back, and I was like, oh, okay, all right, fine.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. But honestly, like the reason why I like it is exactly because it undermines what we're used to and what we're used to a kind of hero's journey, especially in Hollywood horror. But this movie is not a hero's journey. It is a movie about PTSD. And I don't think that confronting trauma solves PTSD. I think Uh,
Yeah.
I think it is a necessary medicinal step in the process for many patients, yes. But I think what the movie is saying um, is that you really can't is that um, there's no easy way to get rid of it. And to me, when I was in it and when I was like feeling her burn the house down, I didn't feel a sense of victory. I felt, oh, this is too easy. And I know it wasn't easy. It was very scary,
Hmm.
but I was like, nah, there's something else. There has to be something else. And so while I was in it, so even though I didn't, they could have gone about it without using a fake out, yes. And fake out endings are overdone in Hollywood. I agree with you.
Hmm.
But the image of this trauma monster literally tearing her open and moving inside her, I think, uh, feeds directly into the thesis of the film, and I think works for that, and in a way that is not emotionally fulfilling.
Hmm.
But is appropriately tragic, and so and I think that's why it is upsetting because the the way that we look at trauma and the people who are and the people who have it. I unfortunately know a lot of people with PTSD from childhood abuse, and it's weird, like hearing them talk about it is not like as bad of a trauma, but it does weigh on you. It does, but
Yeah.
at the same time, if I push them away and I don't let them talk about it to me, it's worse for
Hmm.
them, and that's kind of what the movie is entirely about. And so, I think that the ending fits that thesis well.
Yeah, especially with the imagery of it like physically entering her and taking the shape of her mom, like before and during that process. I think it does fit that thesis and it hammers that point home for them. I just have a problem with the fake out part,
Yeah,
and it leaves me with a message of unintentional, and I know this wasn't what they were going for, but I can't help but like do it. But they kind of like imply that, oh, suicide's the only way to deal with it. Sorry, just let it win. And I think that that's kind of horrific. But like the only survivor is like a murderer is kind of I don't know. I just think it undermines some of the delicate nature that they tried to approach the theme of trauma with. And I don't know. I'm torn on it, but I think I
for
think
sure.
the I think the 50-50 nature I feel about it just gets tipped in the negative direction because of the fake out, and I don't know how long it is, and then you're like, I don't. Once you see him smile, I was like, oh, okay, fine. Like, yeah, we're gonna just do this again.
For sure, for sure. Yeah. I the only fake out that I still like, spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert for a different movie.
Yeah.
Skip through
Oh.
is the only fake out that I still think I appreciate is the descent. Um,
Hmm.
but I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, it's
Um,
tough. We hit on the main theme of the movie, which is trauma, and talking about it with people and how to deal with it internally and externally. You surmise that the main thesis of the movie is encouraging people to talk about it. I don't want to put words in your mouth. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you mentioned that that was at least a big part of the theme. You
no,
see this with the therapist and the boyfriend. Would you want to speak on that? Tell me
no.
more.
Keep going. Keep going. I'll get
No,
to
that
it.
was all I had was just teeing
Okay.
up that discussion.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the therapist and the boyfriend are great examples. There's also the sister who tries to
Hmm.
push the trauma away and suppress it. Um, I don't think it's necessarily that talking about it is the solution. I think the movie's saying that there is no easy way out of trauma. Whether
Hmm.
you talk about it or not, it's gonna hurt people. It's gonna hurt everyone because that's the nature of trauma in humanity and in our minds. Um, and yeah, I think love the therapist. I forget the actress's name. I'm gonna look her up right now. But she also played a therapist in Big Little Lies, which I
Robin Wiegert?
cool.
Wiegert?
Yeah, she's great. And so I almost clapped when I saw her in the therapist chair. I was like, oh, cool. Like, you know, because she plays Nicole Kidman's therapist in the show, and it was, yeah, I love that show. And with the boyfriend, played by Jesse T. Usher, yeah, it's it's interesting, um, the way those it's interesting the way the monster uses the two of them against Rose. You know,
Hmm.
both of them are used as are kind of um, given a real scene of helping her, and then given a fake
Hmm.
out like scare scene of uh, of haunting her. And
Hmm.
the only cues we get are in the sound design, and I thought they were super effective for me at least. I was very on edge. I was not sure at all until it was too late when something was a hallucination versus not, except the end, and and also the what you call it, the birthday party scene.
Hmm.
But yeah, like um, even her attempts, it heightens the tragedy even more. Like even her attempts to find some sort of medical solution, and even her loved ones' attempts to find a medical solution for her are all exploited by this monster. And I think that's yeah, it's really sad and really upsetting and scary.
Yeah, yeah, I absolutely agree. And you touched on the not knowing if something is a hallucination, which is a real powerful tool this movie has, and I think it utilizes it well for the most part. However, once again, I think the trailer was kind of its downfall, because
Yeah.
I knew that it would have like I knew going in that there was going to be a hallucination scene of the therapist because we got the shot of her like helping and then smiling, and same with like a couple other characters in the movie. The head falling upside down in the car was a great scare in the movie, but also ruined by the trailer. So maybe this is part of a broader discussion for another time. But do you think the trailer also hinders the enjoyment of this movie?
Definitely the scene with the sister. Um,
Hmm.
and definitely the scene with I forget his name, but the patient who's like whispering about
Yeah,
his
you're
family.
going to die.
Yeah, that one definitely was ruined. Um, I think those are the only two that I like looked at. I think I just kind of like looked down at my popcorn whenever the trailer came up. So even though I knew the story and I could hear it,
Hmm.
hear the dialogue, I wasn't like looking at it for the rest of it. The other
Hmm.
things that were ruined were the found footage scenes of the killings. I think those were given away by trailer two, which I
Yeah.
couldn't look away from because it was a YouTube ad or something.
Mm.
And yeah, yeah, like I wish. Oh no, I think the only one that I saw was the gas station one. Yeah,
I
but
think that's the only one in that trailer, if
okay,
I'm not mistaken. I don't know.
cool, cool. Yeah, so it didn't hurt the character's like personal journey, which is what I was most invested in anyway.
Hmm.
So although yes, it made the trailer made the movie less scary for me, I still it didn't hinder my enjoyment too much.
Yeah, that's good. I always try to like not let it bug me and just like watch it, but I don't know. For this movie, I was like, there's so many good scares. Like the sister walking out, like she walks out so perfectly as like Okay, I'll give this another shot, like blah blah blah. But like, I don't know. I know it's tempting and you got to get butts in the seat, and that's just marketing. But you got a golden scene there that's just kind of undermined. And
Was
so I
there a
was a
jump that
little
got you?
disappointed. There were a couple, a lot of them actually, I think got me. I'm trying to think of exact ones. I watched this like you like a week ago, and I didn't take notes because we weren't sure if we were doing this or not. And so I can't think of any right now. But I was jumping, I was invested. My palms were sweaty, and it got me. Um, a lot of that was also due to the sound design, like you mentioned, and the cinematography. They used
Yes.
the Cohen close up for dialogue in this movie, and
Hmm.
use it effectively in horror, which I love. Having just such eerie, like one shots where the character's like looking at the lens and talking, and you don't know if one of them is gonna like be evil when it turns back, was an incredibly effective suspense building tool in this. I wouldn't say it's like a beautifully shot movie. It's not like looking like Lords of Arabia 2001 out here, but I think the cinematography like informed the scares and the suspense perfectly. And I also saw that in the sound design too, which I know you did. So you're dying to talk about it, I'm sure.
For sure, man. Yeah, I mean the sound design scare is the one that got me for sure when she's listening
Yeah.
to the tape back and wow, so I was like, oh shit. I
Yeah,
was like,
that one I
I
like. That had popcorn in the air as for that one.
yeah, yeah, and like a lot of critics these days love to talk about The Shining and what's it called? Freaking Midsommar, and they're like, "See, you can do horror without jump scares." But like, I like jump scares. They just have to be.
Yeah.
There just needs to be a wide variety of them, and they need to
Hmm.
be executed well and not with just loud music. Um, this
Yeah.
fucking bastard Finn never does the same trick twice, which I
Hmm.
love because it got me so freaked out, especially in the last like few minutes, and in the middle of the movie for sure too. So yeah, like that one got me. Um, I was like, man, I'm trying to remember. Oh, the birthday party one got me when she
Hmm.
like and then um it's technically not a jump scare, but when she's having the nightmare about going into the hospital and killing the guy and
Mm.
Cal Penn rips his own face off. I was like,
Yeah,
oh my
that was
god.
insane.
Uh, yeah, I was like,
Mhm.
yeah, it was great.
I, I I was also got real bad, and I think it was in the trailer. But like the first time she sees the patient in her house, like when she's getting
Oh
the
yeah.
wine and stuff. This first of all, stop drinking out of glasses. You're dropping them too damn much. The fact that she breaks two glasses was like the funniest thing in the world to me for some reason. But that first scare, like it got me, dude.
Yeah,
It was rough.
100%, 100%. Yeah, man. Anything, anything else? Any other good notes you got? The monster
Um,
itself, the VFX.
yeah, I think it was good enough. The extra large human monster is starting to be overdone. We saw it a lot in like the It franchise. We saw it in It Follows. I guess it's just It based movies. Um, and so like I'm not that scared by just this large gangly thing coming out. But I think it crawling into her mouth redeemed it a lot, and some of the VFX and the facial contortions and just that weirdness. It was enough for me. I wasn't like blown away by the design or too surprised, but I did like it for sure.
Yeah, I love the layers of the smiles. I thought that was just
Hmm.
gorgeous. Yeah, so scary. Um, and the blood too was very like practical, and so like a lot of the violence in the film felt very visceral to me. Um, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I do want to give another shout out to our lead. Is it Susie or Sosie?
I don't know.
Ms. Bacon. She was excellent. Horror
Yes.
tends to have a pretty distinct lack of good acting, and it was not the case, at least for her. Some of the supporting characters I was like so on, but
Hmm.
she knocked it out of the park. I think without her, this movie would have suffered a lot more, and I think it wouldn't have been as fresh feeling, but also familiar feeling without her carrying the weight. So big special shout out to her. And shall we do favorite scenes?
For sure, for sure. You want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
I can go first. I think my favorite is the hallucination that you mentioned in the hospital,
Hmm.
with the face rip off. Just because it got me, I thought it was real at first, and then when the patient starts like grunting with her, like in sync, and like it just like turns kind of extra crazy. It was a nice build up and execution, and I did not expect people to rip their face off. It was scary. It wasn't a jump scare, but like you said, it got me. And so I really liked that scene. I really liked the birthday party scene because I don't know why I did, but I did think it was a moment of safety. I thought she would do something weird to embarrass herself for sure. Like I knew there was no way it was going to go smoothly, but I thought it was going to show like be a scene that shows like the curse is affecting her mental state and that she like can't really be around people. I didn't think the curse was actually going to be there. The cat I kind of saw coming, but it was still a great execution nonetheless. And the jump of the lady sitting in the chair was great. And it's one of the highlights of her acting performances for Susie slash Sosie. And so I enjoyed that one a lot. And I really liked the interview with you mentioned the actor's name, Rob Morgan, who plays Robert Talley. I think they had good chemistry, and it was nice to have a dialogue scene to like just kind of build the story and flesh out what it is this thing is. Because if you're too vague about a monster in horror, it kind of I don't know, it loses some of its charm and its likability as a villain. And I think they gave it to us. And hearing his similar journey to the one we're seeing with her, but just differences in their characters was cool. Was kind of disappointed they spoiled how it ended with him like figuring out that she has the curse, but it wasn't like a huge detriment. I still really liked that scene.
Yeah, 100%. Um, yeah, I agree, especially with the birthday party. Um, that is just such a visceral and very very difficult stunt going through a glass table like that, and
Hmm.
they pulled it off in camera, and it looks painful, like it looks absolutely insane,
Yeah.
and the scream that she lets out is like it's animalistic. Like I was like starting to get choked up. I was like, or that scene I actually cried because I was like, oh fuck, like like all of these kids are scarred forever, and
Yeah.
her relationship with her sister gone, and like okay, now this there's no way that this can end well. Like even if she
Hmm.
escapes, like what's she gonna go back to, you know? um
Yeah.
and
It
yeah, it was.
wasn't.
Sorry, go.
I was just gonna say it wasn't as funny as when Christmas Vacation did it. That's for damn sure.
It's the last thing on my mind. So I'm glad you brought that up.
I had to.
Yeah, I was like, I was like, oh man, please don't be the dead cat. Please don't be the dead cat. And then I heard the flies buzzing, and I was like, fuck, it's the dead cat.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Shout out, Mustache. Rest in peace, King. Um,
Mhm.
the next, my second favorite scene is when she visits the professor's house. The professor was the one that passed it on to Laura, and
Mhm.
she talks to his widow, and that's kind of where the message of the movie kind of clicked for me, and also
Yeah.
where uh, and it was just also really dreadful, like seeing the pictures that the guy was drawing was like it's like really really horrible stuff, and
Mhm.
I was yeah, it's like kind of like a like the structure of the faces was something like that H.R. Geiger would come up with, but it was like very sketchy and very like almost like it was from the movie Sinister.
Mhm.
And yeah, a lot of those drawings were very very well done. I think looked like they were done by multiple artists, which speaks to the fractured mind of the professor.
Yeah.
Again, Miss Bacon absolutely killing it, and yeah, that's definitely one of my favorite scenes in the film. I also my favorite scene though is the opening kill because it's given away by the trailer and it still
Mhm.
hurts to watch.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah, like I would like I've never gotten emotional over a first kill ever in a horror movie, and that one was like you just feel so bad for Laura, because
Mhm.
you know having seen the trailer, you know what the main character's in for, and you're just imagining what she could have gone through. You know, someone who didn't have the resources of a psychology background, and is
Mhm.
even less prepared than this woman. And she says like, "I'm a doctoral candidate. I'm not crazy." And I'm like, I felt that shit, man. It's so so terrifying.
Yeah.
Like the fallback, like imagine being so scared that you fall backward in your chair. Like when I see that in a video, in a YouTube video, I laugh, or a Vine, or I laugh. But like that fear being a real thing was just so so crazy. And the amount of
Mhm.
blood that comes out when she actually carves her own face is
Yeah.
insane. Yeah, it was very very bloody. I've had a very very gore filled week of watching.
Yeah, you
Uh,
have.
yeah, so that was a good start to it. But yeah, those are my favorites, my three favorites.
Yeah, I absolutely love that one. I didn't want to mention it because I knew you would. You brought it up in the top five, but it's fantastic. Both actresses nail it in that,
Yes.
and then holding on the cut and just like slow and just brutal.
Yeah.
It was rough, and
Caitlin
then it tied
Stacy,
into
shout out.
the yeah, big shout out. And then the tie into the morgue shot of like the smile underneath, which I thought was tacky as hell in the trailer, but it worked after you see like the amount of blood and the damage that's done. So, a fantastic scene. It definitely exceeded the trailer. And same with the one that I've kind of poked fun at, the "you're going to die" scene. When he starts to stand up and get confrontational, it actually does get intense. But man, is it tacky when you cut early.
Yeah, 100%.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Go watch Smile. It's in theaters. I think that's the only place. Is it on Paramount Plus already? Have they done that yet?
I stopped Paramount for a bit, but I'm gonna reactivate it soon so I can
Mm,
rewatch Rosemary's Baby. But
nice.
um, but yeah, I'm sure it'll end up in Paramount in the next few days or so.
Yeah. Watch it in theaters. It's worth it for the sound design alone. If you're unless your theater's got like a shitty ass Bluetooth speaker or something, then maybe don't. But yeah, I think it's worth seeing in the theater.
For sure. Uh, Another movie that's worth seeing in the theater if you're in New York or LA is Mona Lisa and the Blood Moon.
Yeah, you know
Uh,
who saw it in the theater maybe didn't like it was this guy. Nom
Nice.
Stonk in Jeremy's poorly written reviews the movies that we're watching because it's funny, it makes them laugh and stuff. They called this movie utterly woeful. So I saw the cast and premise and thought we could be on a winner here. Could I be more wrong? What the hell is it? The acting is appalling. The direction is as if it's a school project written by somebody below the age of 10. The actors are so miscast. It's hard to fathom any professional casting director thinking they were right for the role. However, the ultimate crime is the director thinking her choice of music throughout the movie is somehow atmospheric and clever. Let me tell her, it's hideously bad. How Anna Lily Amirpour got the gig after her last movie is amazing. It can only be a hope that she returns to the oddness of her debut film. Stop trying to be deliberately weird and go back to directing.
Damn. So
Yeah.
mean.
Hmm.
Shitting on the soundtrack and the cast. Sheesh.
Yeah.
Uh,
Both of which were highlights for me.
I know. It's like this guy forgot to have fun.
Yeah.
Nom Stonk. Shout
No.
out. But yeah, Mona Lisa and the Blood Moon is the third feature by Anna Lily Amirpour, who we are both fans of from her first feature,
Mhm.
A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, which we reviewed on this show. You should go look up that episode. It's good. Um,
Mhm.
it's very good, actually. And
Yeah.
yeah, this one stars Jung Jong So, who made her debut in Burning 2016. So she's very new to the acting game, but already amazing. I loved her in that film, and so I was very, very excited to see her try something completely different. Same with Kate Hudson. I'm a Kate Hudson fan. You know, if you watched Almost
Mhm.
Famous, you know. If you know, you know. And yeah, this is a very different role than the characters that she's used to playing, and someone who's kind of unsavory, which I love. And then Ed Skrein, I didn't know that he was going to be in this movie, or no, I didn't know
Mhm.
that he was going to be in this movie, and then I forgot, and then I saw his name in the opening credits, and I was like, hell yeah. I just love this guy's face, man. He's such a
Yeah.
great, I don't know, I just love him. And of course, I
Mhm.
love Craig Robinson. Who doesn't love Craig Robinson? Um, yeah, the movie stars all of them and a newcomer named Evan Whitten, who plays Kate Hudson's son. And it follows a young woman with mysterious powers who escapes from an asylum and wanders the streets of New Orleans. Yeah, this is unlike her other films, not a western. And it's very very different. But I love the new look of the film. I think it's it kind of wears her Terry Gilliam influence on her sleeves, but it also captures
Mhm.
the New Orleans vibe. I've never been, but uh, according to her, no other movie really captured the kind of like combination of seediness and joy and beauty that it kind of swirls around at once in that community. Um,
Mhm.
but and so the movie feels like a very complex love letter to the city. I think that soundtrack is full of bops. I disagree with our friend here. It kind of feels not like a superhero movie. It feels more like a modern Terminator 2. Um, and yeah, I think the movie is really really fun. I think it was an absolute blast to watch it in a packed theater with a whole bunch of people who were fans of hers. And there was a Q&A after. I'll talk more about that later, I guess. But yeah, I'll give the movie a 9. I don't think even I can't think of anything explicitly that I dislike about the film. But I just don't think that Amirpour's made a 10 yet. Um, I think that her ceiling is high though, and this movie
Mhm.
makes me so much more optimistic than I already was about her career going forward. I'm hot with anticipation because she's on Guillermo del Toro's anthology. She's one of the directors,
Mhm.
so
Hyped.
yeah, so excited for that. And so yeah, Mona Lisa and the Blood Moon, 9 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I absolutely love this movie too. In the beginning, I started out a little skeptical. because the acting is, at least from the first nurse and the receptionist in the mental hospital she escapes from, I was like, all right, this does feel a little like student filmy. It does look low budget, but it quickly and very quickly just comes into its own. It ends up being like dripping with style, which is framed perfectly with that soundtrack and big bursts of color that show off the seediness of the town. It had like kind of a Florida Project type grime to it,
Hmm.
despite being like the most different film. And I love that. I think it carries the tradition of A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, of having like the dark underbelly of the city. Obviously, going from a fictional one to a real one. And I think she captured it perfectly. And having our lead, John John Jong Seo, I don't know, I'm
Nice,
gonna butcher that every time. Mona
nice.
Lisa, be our guide through this town, and have it be as much of the city, much about the city of New Orleans as it is about Mona Lisa herself, was brilliant, and I was intrigued the whole time, and I had a damn good time the entire time. And I really wish I could have seen it in a theater instead of on my laptop. But that said, I still thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I think I think it could have said a bit more, but I think that's also my own expectations coming off of A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, which has like some pretty distinct opinions and theses across the board. So I think that's my own undoing. And overall, it's a damn good time, and I highly recommend watching it. Honestly, I will give it an 8.4 out of 10.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. Um, One thing we both talked about was the soundtrack. Was there a particular scene where Amirpour uses music that you were like hyped on, or like really just got you into the character's mindset?
Um, I loved the introduction to Charlie. Well, right after the introduction to Charlie, when he's in his room like thrashing to metal, because it's such an angsty kid thing to do that and be like, I had a shit day. I'm letting the aggression out. And then having Mona Lisa like empathize with that. She's like, I've had a shit fucking week too. Let's just rock out a bit. Was great to see, and I think it bonded those characters beautifully and in a believable way. If they didn't have that scene and that connection with that song, I think it would have been a more unsettling kidnapping type vibe toward the end. And so it bonded those characters very nicely. And the ending also stands out on the airplane when she's listening to Fuzz's playlist that he made. I think it's not like a song that I would listen to, but it's a song that fit perfectly despite it being such an out there selection. And so it was nice to have the variety of like these electronic heavy songs to metal to like pop to everything in here. I loved it.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of like um, Botan and Pogo, and there's one more artist that's featured more than once. High on Fire in this one, and yeah, all bops in my opinion. I also love the plane scene and the dancing scene together. I also there's a they play Ghetto Blaster while Fuzz is cooking for them, and I just thought that was
Yeah.
the most wholesome shit in the world. I was like, hell yeah, man! It
In
was
his
so
like
good,
weird mushroom den.
so good, so good. And yeah, that's kind of the key to her movies, man. In real life, she's hard of hearing, and so I was reading a lot of negative reviews for her previous two movies, for Girl and for Bad Batch, and a lot of them were saying that it was underwritten, as if um, and there wasn't enough dialogue explaining stuff. And I honestly think that's bullshit. I think the
Mhm.
music and the dance in place of dialogue is her greatest strength as a filmmaker.
Yeah.
I think it's something that is distinct about that makes A Girl Walks Home Alone and I distinct, that makes Bad Batch distinct, and that makes this movie distinct as well. This is a movie where you know where the main character uh, doesn't grew up in isolation, and the kid that she befriends. Both of them have been isolated for so long, and so it makes sense that the way that they can communicate is with sounds other than words.
Mhm.
It makes sense that we finally learn to understand Fuzz through his musical choices and stuff. And yeah, I think um, it just makes the movie more fun too. Like I
Yeah.
don't know, yeah.
That's fun.
Um, you also mentioned the performances,
Mhm.
supporting performances first. Which were the biggest standouts to you?
I think the obvious three of Charlie, what was her name? Bobby, and
Bonnie.
Fuzz, Bonnie, and Fuzz. I think they all were fantastic. Apparently, Zac Efron was originally casted as Fuzz, and I'm glad they switched it. I don't think he's grimy enough to have like the sleazeball like I mean, I don't know. He might be a grimy dude in real life. I don't really know anything about him, but I don't think he has the look that Ed has, and so and I think he was fantastic. He plays this. He toes the line between like kind of date rapey to like a sweet guy, and he toes it very well. And so I loved Fuzz's character, and I love Charlie a lot, especially for Evan Witten being somebody I'd never seen before. I don't think I'm perusing his filmography right now, and none of them look familiar. And he knocked it out of the park, absolutely, especially being like the just the pair that Mona Lisa can confide in. She says, I forget her exact line, but she says that people are so hard to like or make it so hard to like them. And so having a kid who has matured so much, but not like past where she has, having no childhood or adolescence at all. I think they were the perfect duo for it. And then Kate Hudson fucking knocked it out of the park in a role I never thought I'd see her in. She
Yeah,
she absolutely killed it as a fake friend turned somewhat antagonist was great. Seeing her just be one of the manipulative assholes that she runs in so prevalently throughout this film was cool to see. And at first you think, all right, maybe she's actually gonna help Mona Lisa, but it just gets more and more selfish as she goes, and that slow unraveling of just a desperate woman in a desperate situation was great, and I think Kate knocked it out of the park.
yeah. She reminded me a lot of Fagin in the book Oliver Twist. Like, there's so much that you can't help but or the Artful Dodger in Oliver and Company. Um, but there's so much that you like about them, and so much, and they um, ooze charisma, these characters,
Hmm.
and so you understand why a helpless, not helpless, but why a lost protagonist would latch onto that figure for
Yeah.
guidance. And when that betrayal starts to hit, it hits that much harder. So I
Hmm.
definitely thought that was a great characterization, both in the screenplay and in the performance of of Kate Hudson. I remember in the Q&A, Amir Poor was like, I don't care if the movie's like someone was asking her why she chose Kate Hudson, and she was like, I don't even care if the movie's good. I just want my Kate Hudson fix. Like I'll watch everything she's in, and I'm like, okay, cool, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good choice of actor to do that with, and I think this is one of those good ones, man. I think this is an excellent entry into the canon that is her long filmography. Um, yeah, very very complex, and especially by the end of the film, I have no idea where that character will end up in life, and hopefully, will be in a better place. Choo choo.
Hold for
Um,
train.
what did you think about the look of the movie? So, unlike her first two movies, this is not anamorphic. It's 1851, and the lenses are
Mhm.
very, very wide, sometimes up to 10 millimeters. What did you think about it? The look.
I think it was perfectly disorienting, I guess
Hmm.
would be how I would describe it. Because it kind of puts you in the shoes of Mona Lisa exploring this unknown world. It reminded me of, I'm blanking on the name of the movie. That one witch movie that I brought up with Renato. I don't, it
Oh,
was like Norwegian or something. Um,
the Innocents.
no, where she's like turned into a witch and then the witch just
Oh,
releases
oh,
her into the world.
you won't be alone.
Yeah, yeah. It reminded me of that because it's kind of a protagonist who grew up in isolation and never really knew the world outside, just being kind of released into it. In that one, it's more like appreciating the beauty of nature and all that. But in this, it was like a disorienting, just try to survive in the underbelly of New Orleans. And I think they both hit the nail beautifully. I think it's having the wide angle lenses and the handheld. It feels like you're kind of like drunkenly stumbling and trying to find cheese puffs yourself. And I think it was great. It made me empathize with the character and see the world through her eyes. And I don't think any other way shooting it would have. Um, but what do you think, especially about that aspect ratio?
That was the question that I asked her in
Yeah.
the thing, and I swear it was like the worst Q&A audience because they all fucking mumbled into the mic, and she said at the beginning, she's like, I'm hard of hearing, you guys really need to talk into the mic, and nobody did.
Hmm.
And I was like, thank God for my podcasting hours, because
Yeah.
she heard me right away, and then she said, "Good question," and I swear I blacked out. I was like, "Oh my God!" Anna Lilian Mirpur said, "Good question." Um, yeah, I asked her why she chose that, and she said that to her, um, it kind of it captures the New Orleans setting super well. We're looking at really tall trees and we're looking at really tall buildings, but you also want to keep your eye on the ground level. You also want height for close-ups, especially close-ups with a wide angle lens. I got right away that she was evoking 12 Monkeys, so I was happy that she mentioned that
Hmm.
movie. Have you seen 12 Monkeys?
I've seen like half of it years ago.
Okay,
For being such
okay.
a Gilliam fan and a Python fan, you'd think I'd be all over it, but no. I've seen La Jetée though. Does that
Good
count?
choice. It's a good choice. Yeah, but yeah, 12 Monkeys like puts you in a freaking 10 millimeter lens, like right up on Brad Pitt's face while he's tweaking out on
Hmm.
meds. And this movie does exactly that. It forces you to empathize with characters and get into their headspace, even though you might not like them. Whether it's Officer Harold or Bonnie Bell, we're in the space that they're in, and it also kind of adds like an eeriness to it. I know that first opening scene where she escapes kind of sets a weird tone because you think the movie's going to be really scary because of that.
Hmm.
And then of course it softens out the more we get into the wild and the more she learns about life and about people. Um, but yeah, Yeah, I mean, I love it. Pogorzelski, Powell Pogorzelski, uh, the the cinematographer of Hereditary and Midsommar, once again killed it with both in the close-ups and in the wides. There are some fantastic little scenes in here that show the characters in their own world, like Jared said. Like you really get to see the world the way Mona does. Which, speaking of which, Jung Jung Seo's performance in the film. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I love you.
yeah.
Um, Notes on it. Any other thoughts?
I think she did a lot for having a character with pretty minimal dialogue, especially in the beginning. She's pretty mute the whole like first act of the movie. But I think just her confident but lost look that she has. Like she doesn't know where she's going or what the plan is, but she knows she can get out of whatever situation she puts herself in. She just plays that perfectly, and I feel like I would have no idea how to do a North Korean refugee that's been in isolation for 10 years. Like what do you put on your face for that? And she somehow found it. And I'm sure Anna Lily Amirpour had something to do with that as well. But her chops show, her chops shine in this. And yeah, she carried the movie. She's just perfect. That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah, man. That woman is born to be on the big screen. Have you had a chance to see Burning yet?
No, no, I've been dying to for since 2016 probably, and I just haven't found
It's
the right
it,
mood.
it's so up your alley, dude. It's so up your
Yeah.
alley. I'm so excited for you to see
Okay.
it. Um, yeah, but anyway, yeah, she's actually I agree, she's excellent here, and this is a lot more physical than the role in Burning that I've seen her
Hmm.
in. I guess she's also in the Korean remake of Money Heist, which I have not seen. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, she has to do a lot of legwork here. I think you hit the nail on the head with the idea of like not be of being lost but not being scared, and that's what something that's very unique about this protagonist. And we talked about how the isolation kind of made her ignorant of social things, but it's also her greatest strength. I mean, this isolation kind of makes every single human interaction, human conflict petty to her.
Hmm.
Everything that she and Charlie are kind of floating above the money problems of everyone. They're just kind of they're obsessed with joy and with love and with beauty, and that's all they want out of this life, and that's all they want to pursue out of this life. And the only one that sees that is Fuzz. But yeah, and I think the movie is saying that isolation also kind of and I guess separation from city life specifically kind of gives you this wisdom and gives you a special power. Hers is the ability to control other people, but
Yeah.
that's she also has that emotional state.
Hmm.
What did you think about her powers and the way that they're presented in the film and the way that they're filmed?
I like it. I think she was a little too invulnerable to like feel like she was in danger at any point.
Right.
But I also don't think that that worked against the film. I think it could have, but I think that confidently lost motif throughout was like, I don't know, her having all the power in every situation became interesting to watch instead of like a plot armor type hindrance. But that's the only negative I see with it. The head tilt thing was cool, and I like that it became less and less necessary as it went on. When she first uses it, she's pretty dramatically like hitting her head as the nurse stabs her leg. But when she's like pickpocketing people, she's kind of just like staring at them and losing it. So the physicality of it was super cool to see, especially how it progresses as she gets more confident in herself with those powers. And yeah, I think it's cool, and it led to some funny bits as well from Craig Robinson being like, "Just don't look at her eyes. I know it sounds weird, just don't." And like the chicken leg part was funny, and so it also her just like obscene amount of power led to some good uplifting comedic moments as well.
I agree. I agree. Um, cool, cool. Any other notes you have about the movie? Anything else you want to say?
Um, Not really. I mentioned it not having a ton to say about the world it lives in, and I think that is true. However, I also think that it does have some stuff to say about taking advantage of differently abled people. I wouldn't call her disabled by any means, or I don't know if anybody, but just the manipulation that people immediately jump to in the underbelly of this city was on full display, and the two characters that break that chain, or three, I guess, would be Fuzz, Charlie, and the voodoo lady that that the cop officer Harold goes to, where she's like, "Why do you need to control it? Why do you try to give it a name? Like, it's just power. Like you just gotta live with it. It exists." And I think that they tipped the scales nicely and enough to get the message across. And so it does have some stuff. I just wish it kind of said more with what it was given.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, control is a big theme in the movie, um,
Hmm.
and it's I think made literal most in her powers. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure, for sure. Um, cool. Well, I'm glad you liked it.
Ye-
I want to see it again because I feel like a big reason why I liked it was because of all that came with it.
Yeah.
Because that was just an awesome experience overall. Um,
Hmm.
but I'll watch it again for sure. I definitely owe it a rewatch. I think all of her movies kind of get better on the rewatch.
Absolutely.
Um, but yeah, favorite scenes?
Favorite scenes. You want to go first for this one?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I love the entire diner scene.
Hmm.
Mona Lisa scaring the old people through the window, I thought was hilarious. The stop hitting yourself, literally saying stop hitting yourself was,
Yeah.
I was, I was cackling. It was so good. Uh, and then the scene of Bonnie and Mona Lisa getting to know each other was really cool and really interesting. And,
Hmm.
these two actresses, even with a language barrier, you get the sense that they're feeling each other out, that they're circling each other, figuratively. I love the foot chase between Officer Harold and who's limping, and Bonnie
Hmm.
Bell who's in heels. Like it's just these two things that there's no easy solution to either one, but they just hinder both characters, and it's
Hmm.
it's funny to watch, and it's funny how it just ends just in a really stupid and fun way. Um, and I also love the initial escape. I think there's just something so beautiful and memorable about a person eating cheese puffs in a straitjacket. Like
Yeah.
it's so
And by the
unusual.
handful too. Doesn't even take the bag. Just a
It's
handful.
so good. It's so good. Yeah, I forget what they were. I think they were just called cheesy puffs, but they had their
Yeah.
own, like they had their fake brand thing. Like there was a Jizzy Fizz in the soda. The soda was
Uh-huh.
called Jizzy Fizz. So good. So good. Yeah, those are my top three.
Yeah, all good. I would definitely give the diner an extra plus. I think it's a great bonding of two characters who eventually fall out. You get the hilarity of the old people, like you mentioned, and when she scares the people at the other table after they're getting to know each other, she's just like, "Turn around, eat your damn food, turn around," is also fantastic. Just start to finish. I think that was the moment I fell in love with the movie,
Hmm.
rather than just liked it. Was just all of that. Um, the introduction with Fuzz, and then eventually going into his car was great because immediately me, like I'm sure a lot of others watching this movie, were like, this dude's seedy as fuck. He's gonna do bad things to this person and probably get fucked up because of it. And you see that he has that intention for sure, but then it turns into just a curiosity and then an appreciation of like, oh, she's different. She doesn't like the other people here. She appreciates these things the way I do, and it was cool to see that transition just through exchange of cheese puffs. It was awesome. And then I'll have to say the airport scene, because it was
Hmm.
the time I felt the most suspense throughout the film. I mentioned her never really being in a lot of danger, and this was kind of the only time she is. And then seeing her confidence counterbalanced with Charlie just being a nervous wreck the whole time was great. And then Charlie's ultimate sacrifice to go back home in order to let her get on the flight was fantastic. It was super sweet. That hug was like, it made me tear up, man. It was adorable. And so I have to include that as well.
Same, absolutely. I love that airport scene, man. And regarding Fuzz, like I think I didn't ask her about it, but I feel like she deliberately designed him to be similar to Saeed the Pimp in A
Yeah,
Girl Walks Home
it
Alone.
was it was like a straight line across, just the American version of him. It felt like.
Right, and so that deception works so well, and it's
Mhm.
not until you already realize that he's a good guy that you can finally read his tattoos, which is like what you see is what you are underneath his eyes, and it's
Mhm.
like, oh shit, like I judged him, damn,
Yeah.
damn. Yeah, it's perfect. It's perfect.
Mhm.
Yeah, Mona Lisa and the Blood Moon is still playing in theaters in LA and New York City. I think specifically the IFC Center in New York City.
Mhm.
And I don't know where exactly in LA. I think it might still be in the Frida. I could be wrong though. But yeah, highly recommend you guys go check it out if you're in those areas.
Mhm.
If not, it is available on Amazon Prime. And you can rent it there. You can rent it pretty much anywhere on any streaming service, I think. And
Yeah.
yeah, I highly recommend. Highly recommend.
Mhm.
And they're working on getting a vinyl release of the soundtrack soon. So
Hell yeah.
definitely keep an
It
eye
it
out for
felt
that.
like a movie. It felt like a movie that they would just have to because it's so prominent.
For sure, for sure. Alrighty, folks. Anything else you want to leave the people with, Jer?
Absolutely not. But I can't wait to speak to your voices again soon, or speak to
Oh,
your ears, not so much your voices.
faux show. Alrighty, we love you. Goodbye.
Let's go.
What a lovely day!
Andy, there's a whole world out there. Jump in.
Can you dig it?
Yeah.
You must always pay strict attention.
I was just completely enamored by it the entire time.
Dude, he did not have to go that hard.
I know, man. Isn't it wild?
The Jared cast.
So it